features a fountain plaza. There's also a large children's playground and a Tai Chi garden. Um, let's see. The Edward Yode Aviary is the highlight of the park. So designed to look like a rainforest. There's also something akin to a wooden bridge suspended from 10 meters above ground at eye level. And oh, sorry, at eye level, there's also a lot of tree branches. Just a very nice looking place designed to look like a rainforest. Um, when you're actually there, like when you're walking around, if you click the video, you would think that you are in a rainforest. I'd say they've done a pretty decent job of masking the fact that this is all man-made. Um, Man-made, of course, meaning this was made by hand, but everything is real, like the trees, the water, stone. Um, this is another landmark you can see. This is also located inside Hong Kong Park, Flagstaff House Museum of TUE. So you'd expect a state with Chinese and colonial influence to be rich with both the history of tea and just like teaware in general, like a lot of like pottery and nice porcelain. Initially built in 1846 as home of the commander of the British forces, Flagstaff House is the oldest colonial building in Hong Kong with a Greek revival style and teaware from the 11th century to the 20th century, roughly. Just a huge collection housed inside this place. Includes a lot of things like bowls, brewing trays, sniffing cups, teapots, porcelain, and purple clay. I'm not too much of a tea enthusiast myself, but it's something I can appreciate, like just the art. It's a nice place to stop by. Um, let's see. Oh, I did not write more information about this, but there's another area you can walk by, very close to the park, the Hong Kong Zoological and Botanical Gardens. Here's another walk around video. Um, Nothing too much to explain. There's lots of gardens and also like a lot of animal displays. If you like pandas, right, they have a live stream, I think, of this certain panda family. You can find it. It might be on YouTube, but don't quote me on that. But I know they live stream the panda family. If you want to like de-stress or something, it's a really cute video just to have up in the background. Here I have pictures of the HSBC building. This is also still located in the Hong Kong Island skyline. This was built in 1985. So this designed by a star architect and has a style of modernism and incorporates really high-tech elements. The build is of glass and steel. This is home of the HSBC headquarters. Large lighting scheme fixtures are on just the facade of the building. You can kind of see it in this photo here when it gets darker. They start to turn on the lights, which will be important later, and can be viewed from the Kowloon Harbor where I'm staying in my hotel. So this is the main event, like for the night. Once it turns nighttime, there's another video here. You can see an illustration of it. Um, just for a disclaimer, if you're epileptic or really sensitive to lights, you might want to be careful clicking on this video or going to Hong Kong itself when it comes to the Symphony of Lights. This happens every night at 8 p.m. So every single night in Hong Kong at 8 p.m. They play music and they put up a light show like across every single building that just incorporates lights with it. This can be viewed. So imagine this photo was taken from Kowloon Bay, where we were walking in the first day, where you can view Hong Kong Island. So this is the view at night. Every evening, yeah, at 8 p.m., you can watch the promenade from the promenade. Lights and just music shows playing a lot of classical Chinese songs in time to the light show. It's quite the sight in Hong Kong inland. You can see the skyscrapers just flashing their lights from across the harbor. And yeah, that video kind of simulates it. I think it's 4K too, so it's quite the treat if you have 5 minutes. Um, okay, moving on to here. These are just some photos of Festival of Lights. So you can see it's not just buildings, right? Even like on Kowloon, there's light murals. So this is just projected light. There's the clock tower from earlier, our landmark. You can see them celebrating 2020 during New Year's. There's also fireworks from buildings. Um, what's this? This is from 2018. So the last time I visited Hong Kong was a layover when I went back to the Philippines, which is where I'm from. But they had something called a Festival of Lights on top of the Symphony of Lights. So this is on Hong Kong Island's Bayside. Just a lot of displays of light and art being shown. I was there, so I'm shouting out my friend. This is her Instagram. If you want to see it, she's a photographer in Hong Kong. She's local there. You
Mhm.
might find me. I'm in one of these photos. You might find me there. But yeah, I'm shouting out her Instagram. If you want to see like just cool photos like of just urban Hong Kong, lots of like portraits, but she also does like lots of landscapes too. My day three, this is what it would look like. Very short because this is the day that I'd be flying back, typically to the Philippines this time. Um, but it consists of just walking around the Museum of Science and then the Museum of History, lunch just anywhere in Kowloon really, and then taking the express train back to HKIA. Yeah, returning the MTR pass if you have that gives you back your 50 Hong Kong dollar deposit. So talking about the Space Museum, let me pull up my other notebook. Sorry, 1 second. Space Museum is again everything is in really close walking distance. So here's a reference earlier. The cultural center behind that is the clock tower. This is the Space Museum with the big dome. You can see here the golf ball shaped building is on the waterfront houses with two exhibition halls. It has a planetarium inside with a huge screen on the ceiling, and the museum is has a dated feel on the inside, but it has a lot of what's it called, Omnimax films playing during the day, virtual paraglider, and a moonwalking simulator. That I haven't seen because I didn't actually get to go here when I went on my layover. Museum also sells a lot of dehydrated astronaut ice cream flavored um, snacks. I think there's three flavors of them. So if you want to feel like an astronaut, they do sell snacks that are dehydrated ice creams. I've never tried it. Sounds cool. Here's another place, the Museum of Science. Um, what's really cool is these places are all like in walking distance of each other. But specifically, the Museum of Science, it is right next to the Museum of History, which was the place I visited on the first day. Um, they're located in an area called Museum Avenue, very conveniently named. And it's another place to get lost in for maybe like an hour to 2 hours. This one, when in my layover in 2018, I actually had time to just explore with my friends. Um, cool tip: they accept student ID. They let you in for free if you're a student. Around that time, I was still at U of T, so I had a University of Toronto student ID, and they accepted it. They didn't ask me anything, so I was like, okay, cool. I got in for free. So if you ever want to go in, any of the museums for free, um, yeah, bring your student ID. Sheridan should work too. Okay, so off to my issues. Let me pull up my other notes. Hong Kong is very dense, with around 7.5 million people living in the country. But the problem isn't really a lack of space, but rather just the utility of that space. So almost three-quarters of the landscape in Hong Kong is actually just green space. This includes open greens and mountains, despite what you might think because of the city skylines. So this means that pretty much 25% of the surface area developed, it 25% of the surface area of Hong Kong is developed, and only 25 of that 7% is allotted to just residential buildings for housing. Um, these are kind of jarring to view from the side. These are like drone images, but these are real like photographs of just housing, like typical housing in Hong Kong. For business purposes, Hong Kong has a low tax income rate compared to the rest of the world, and all land, with exceptions to things like consulate buildings, are government owned and leased. So housing prices, I think, do I have that? Yeah, housing prices and just living conditions in general in non-high end buildings. Um, Maybe that constitutes close to 20 meters squared. Um, and areas like that can cost you about 770,000 if you convert it to Canadian dollars, which is quite extreme. Um, let's see, suggestions. So I'm not one to endorse more cityscape and urban development in areas of nature that are typically undisturbed by technology. Um, the prioritization of land for business reasons, including malls and other buildings, is grossly non-proportional compared to the amount of space developed for the average everyday person, before even considering a career or vocational family. Um, So one of my suggestions to, I guess, solving like an issue like this is just investing more into building residences that are larger and wider in areas of rural Hong Kong that are not mountainous. The reason I was exploring like really small in a small condensed area around like central Hong Kong is because when you expand like a bit more north or like west and south of Hong Kong inland, there's not too much going on besides just other businesses and malls. But there are large malls. However, there's an area like up north called New Territories. Um, did I write it here? Yeah, an MTR line already runs through the northern New Territories area, through the western part of Hong Kong, and connections already like through the MTR leading to Guangdong, which is a province in mainland China. Um, uh, Sorry, I'm losing my notes. Yeah, the distance from the inland city to major business areas like Central City and Kowloon Bayside, which we explored earlier, can be remedied by the fact that there already is a line of the MTR, which is the main train system that runs through the New Territories area, so around northern Hong Kong, into the eastern part of the less developed areas. If you look at the purple line here, sorry, it's kind of small. That's a long train line that doesn't take too long to get into central Hong Kong. So compare that to a picture I took from Google Images. You can see how much of that is Greenland. Um, Keep in mind also there are a lot of more traditional areas like temples and cemeteries that I believe shouldn't be disturbed, obviously, right, for respectful purposes. But there are like a lot of unutilized green areas in Hong Kong. Um, so taking that into account, say you use a small fraction, like another 7% out of the 75 that is unused landmass, dedicating it to creating just more living areas. This would effectively double Hong Kong's housing capabilities while avoiding a significant ecological footprint on the landmass of Southeast China's coastline, really. Um, that was my final solution. Do I have another slide? Sorry, one second. Because I do have a surprise. I don't want to surprise myself if I. Oh yeah, I have one more slide here. Considering just these issues I've mentioned, and also just summarizing how the transit works. This is a good video to watch. It's around 10 minutes. I think it's around the last half where they talk about just the issues of population and what it means, right, for the people of Hong Kong when it comes to traveling on the MTR. This is even before considering like the political climate, right, which we don't really want to get into here. So my surprise in the next slide is this. I went through my drives. Initially, I was just gonna flash it and just surprise everyone, but I realized no one really knows my face. But
Yeah,
here's an
that's true.
image. Here's an image of me with my parents at Victoria Peak when I was 9 years old. This is
Oh.
around 2008. Um, we also had my cousins here. This is Victoria Peak. Earlier, like you saw the upper terminus, right? So even in 2008, it already looked pretty like that, just the upper terminus. Um, for proof that I didn't just take a random Filipino family off the internet, this is me. Did it upload? Yeah, this is me and my family now. This
Oh,
is November 2020.
that's
You can
still
see I'm
your dad
still,
right there.
yeah, that's my dad. You can see I'm still wearing the UFT sweater. This is my dad's birthday last month. Yeah,
Oh,
just
wow.
for proof that that's me. Just in comparison,
We didn't
this
even
year.
greet you happy birthday last month.
Oh, that's my father's birthday, not me.
Oh, your father's day.
Yeah, it was his birthday. We were celebrating. I think I have some more photos here. Yeah, one thing I didn't mention at
Oh, Bruce
Victoria
Lee.
Peak. Going down Victoria Peak, there's a little display called Madame Tussauds Wax Museum.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think this is still there, but this is from 12 years ago with my dad just posing next to the Bruce Lee statue. Pretty cool. Yeah, that was my surprise. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, nice. Wow. Okay. Wow. Thank you. And last but not the least, Mirzy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Okay, I'll share my
Uh,
screen.
yeah, share your screen. Okay.
All right.
And we're going to Belgium.
Yeah. So Belgium is in Northern Europe, neighboring France, Luxembourg, Germany, and the Netherlands. Its
Chocolate
main languages,
factory.
yeah. Um, it's famous for its beer, chocolate, art, and architecture. And its main languages are French, Dutch, and German. So here are some of the views you can see when you visit Belgium. So part one is the tour. And for our itinerary, we'll arrive in Brussels on day one. On day two, we'll move to Ghent. And on day three, we'll go to Bruges. And on day four, the last city will be Antwerp before we head back to Brussels and head to Toronto again. So
Nice.
the departure is from the Toronto Pearson Airport, and the one round trip ticket is $1,024. So Brussels is the capital city of Belgium, and it's a beautiful city with plenty of historical art and architecture, and it's the home to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So the hotel I chose is the Getaway Studios Brussels Airport Hotel, and it's near the NATO headquarters and Jubilee Park that we'll look at later, and it's $91 a night. So day one. So you can look at the Grand Palace, and it's in the town square in Brussels. It features Gothic, Renaissance, and Baroque styles. The square is between the town hall, which was built in 1455, and had a Gothic tower added by Jan van Ruysbroek. And one of the buildings, the King's House, started as a bakery in the 13th century and was eventually restored in the neo-Gothic style in the 18th century. It's now the Brussels City Museum, which displays historic art. Many of the buildings were destroyed in 1659, and some of the houses were rebuilt in the Baroque style. So Jubilee Park was named for the 50-year anniversary of the independence of Belgium in 1880. It features a triumphal arch in the entrance, and it's the widest arch and second tallest arch after the Arc de Triomphe de l'Étoile in Paris. There are also 3 museums to visit in the park: the Army Museum, the Auto World Museum, and the Royal Museum of Art and History. So the Atomium is a mix between architecture and sculpture. It stands out from the older architecture styles that are found in the city. So it was created for the Brussels World Fair in 1958 and was the flagship building and emblem. It also provides a nice view of the city at the top, and you can see that down here. So for day 2, we can take the train down to Ghent. It's only 28 minutes and it's $18.07. So the hotel is Hotel Orion, and it's $108 a night. So the buildings to visit in Ghent are its medieval castle, St. Bavos Cathedral, and other 15th century architecture. The Gravenstein is the castle of the counts. It was built in the 12th century as a medieval fortress. It has the towers, and there's a dungeon in here, and this is the moat. The St. Bavos Cathedral was founded as a chapel in 942, and it was replaced with a Romanesque church in the 12th century, and then eventually changed into a Gothic cathedral from the 14th to 16th century. It houses art by artists such as Jan van Eyck, Paul Rubens, and Laurent Delvaux. So on day 3 will be going north on a 30-minute train ride. So this is the Hotel Petratius. So Bruges is the capital of the West Flanders province, and it's a popular tourist destination. It has canals to travel by and is known as the Venice of the North. The first place to visit is the Market Square, and that includes the Belfry and Cloth Hall. The Belfry was built in 1240 and is listed by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. Visitors can climb on top of the 366-step staircase for a view of the city. And the Berg Square is the next place to visit. The town hall is a Gothic building built between 1376 and 1420. It features replicas of statues of counts and countesses of Flanders. The originals were destroyed by the French Revolution. And there's a Basilica of the Holy Blood, which is a Romanesque structure, and that was thought to have relics of Christ's blood from the Holy Land in the 12th century. So for day 4, we'll be heading to Antwerp. So Antwerp is the second largest city in Belgium, and its port is the most inland seaport and second largest compared to Rotterdam's. The Port of Antwerp also includes the building designed by Zaha Hadid architects that combined the new architecture with the old. So this is the new one, and this is the older building, which couldn't be destroyed. So the hotel is the Tulip Inn, Antwerpen. So the town square features Renaissance architecture, which are decorated with statues similar to Brussels town square. It also has Flemish Gothic influence, so it fits in with the other buildings in the square. The Meer is the busiest shopping street of Antwerp that we can visit. It has a bunch of different styles. For example, the Torenbow is done in Art Deco and was Europe's first skyscraper in 1932. The new Stock Exchange building was done in a neo-Gothic style, and the Oosterweth House and Royal Palace were done in the Rococo style. So it's very picturesque and diverse. So on day 5, we'll take the train back to Brussels, and we'll be flying to Toronto. So the total cost of the hotels and transportation is $1,512.36. So part 2, I'll be talking about an issue Belgium faces, and that is the shortage of water, which is called water stress. There's an unequal balance between the available resource and demand. The water mostly comes from the Wallonia region, despite most of the population being in the north. So these northern regions have extremely high water stress. In some regions, there have been bans on water being pumped from rivers for crops due to the low water levels. This is affecting their agricultural output since the farmers can only wait for rain to water their crops with, and that could take weeks. So some improvements that could be made, it's based on the idea of urban metabolism, which is like the architectural style in which buildings can be adjusted based on a person's needs. This can be the same with cities. A city has complicated systems to use their resources to keep it healthy, but it can remove that which doesn't help. And a city's infrastructure should be updated with new technology to run as efficiently as possible. One such technology would be a way to make water treatment and reuse sustainable. That way we get as much potable water as we can. Potable water is water that's suitable for drinking. So potable water is used in sinks, showers, and toilets. One suggestion for Belgium is to use non-potable water for flushing since we don't really come to contact with it. An example where this was done was Hong Kong. They used seawater and were able to conserve 270 million cubic meters of fresh water. This can be a good solution for Belgium because they're right next to the North Sea. That way, their conserved water can be used for drinking and agriculture. So part 3, I'll be talking about an interesting fact I found about Belgium. So this city is Doel, and it's actually scheduled to be destroyed because the city is adjacent to Antwerp, and the port of Antwerp needs room to expand. The residents were paid to leave the city, but some resisted, and today there are just 25 residents. The art on the walls that you can see are from various street artists from across Europe, and it's an attempt to save Doel from demolition. So I just have a question for the class. They can just think about on their own time. So would you go ahead and destroy the city or would you try to save it? And if so, how?
Wow, that's a nice ending.
Yeah. And that's everything. So I'll stop here.
Okay, well, wow, it's been a long day. Thank you. Thank you. Those are lovely presentation. And I said limited to 4 minutes, but it was really fun. I like to travel a lot, so hopefully you enjoyed it. Yeah. Okay. So, yep. Uh, Again, if you're interested, you know, I'll share the presentation in a drive, so that everybody can see it. Okay. Yeah, they are. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, it's a 1.5 hours overtime stretch, but it's fun. Okay, so enjoy. I know you do have a lot of things to do, and take care. I'll see you next week for the final exam if you are taking it. If not, I don't need to see you. Uh, for those who are not able to present, if you get in touch with them, I'll use next week to also allow them to present in the first hour for next week. Yeah. And if you are interested in joining me in the competition or create your own group, reimagining learning or education, kindly do so. I'll email me and I'll send you the link. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah.